What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where every single week I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the content that I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking WWE Photo Shoot with none other than Goldust, which aired this past week after Raw on the network. We talked about Photo Shoot last week here on Network and Chill, last Friday, so if you haven't already, check out my review of Photo Shoot with The Godfather, a very entertaining episode. And also, if you haven't already checked it out, the latest edition of Network and Chill from Monday, where I talk about Total Bellas, Season 3, I think Episode 4 this past week, so check that out as well. But anyway, this one with Goldust, this edition of Photo Shoot with Goldust, might be the longest one yet, at 29 minutes in length. So it's pretty much a half hour, but it's great. Goldust has a lot of great stories to share. It's a very entertaining watch. So, of course, if you're not already familiar with the layout of the show, basically they sit down these superstars and legends of the past to look back at these photos from their career and people, they know or things they know to kind of share stories on each photo. The first photo we see is of Goldust as the natural Dustin Rhodes from WCW when he was around 21, 22. He said he got the jacket at Wilson's Leather, typical jacket from back in the 80s. Screams 80s, he says. The next picture we see is of him with Dusty, back when they were tagging with Arn Anderson. Then Arn Anderson broke Goldust's arm, so he had to recruit Dusty, his father, as his tag team partner. He called it awesome, it was a great picture, and he misses his dad. The interesting thing about this edition of Photo Shoot, he had like the little handkerchief in his pocket, his coat pocket, his jacket pocket, whatever, on this episode, that had polka dots on it. Obviously an ode to his father, Dusty. This episode aired on the 3-year anniversary of Dusty's death. I believe he passed away on June 11th, 2015, because I remember on Monday, Cody and Goldust tweeting about their dad, and everyone else was as well. So it's interesting that this aired on that anniversary, but I'm sure it was, done on purpose, but I thought it was cool. Anyway, the next picture we see is of Goldust circa 1995 when he first debuted. I guess he was off for about 6 months, he said, from WCW, off from work. He gets a phone call from Vince McMahon regarding the Goldust idea. And he kept saying androgynous over the phone. And Goldust is like, what the fuck does androgynous mean? So he goes home, he looks it up, he's like, I don't really know how this is going to work out. But, he wanted to make the most of it. But he also wanted to do something to kind of get out of his father's shadow, which he was in WCW and also early on in WWE. So, doing the Goldust character, no matter how androgynous or how unique it might be, it was something different that would help him cement his own legacy in wrestling. We see another picture of Goldust with him in the Goldust face paint. He always wanted to wear face paint. He couldn't figure out how to be androgynous, he said, for like the first 6 months of his tenure there. And he said he's a country boy. It's a far reach from what he actually is, but again, he made the most of it. And it wasn't until he started working with a guy like Savio Vega, where he would do like the hip swivel thing and when he was up against his back and shit, where people really started to take notice of like the little mannerisms that made Goldust. And again, it was something back then, that was like 95, 96, something back then you really didn't want to push, because back then the whole gay culture was not what it is today. Even today it might get people all sensitive and upset. Back then, that really was not something explored in the world of wrestling. And there was still a lot of sensitivity around the gay culture and whether you can do this or do that, or not even the fact that it's insensitive, but just the fact that people find it offensive in a different kind of way than people would today, if that makes sense. But he said in working with Savio and a few other guys, he became the most hated person on the planet. Our next picture is of him facing Razor Ramon at the 1996 Royal Rumble pay-per-view. He had a fake tattoo put on his chest with Razor on it. He touched them inappropriately. He touched them inappropriately during their match when he put his hands on Razor's chest and down his stomach. And again, that got people furious. Had the entire arena going like, "Ooh, did he really just do that whole thing?" And the whole building at the '96 Rumble came unglued when he did that shit. But it was a great feud. It was a good match, and I think Razor kind of thought the feud with Goldust was kind of a demotion, which is why he left the company right before WrestleMania 12. Which he didn't talk about here. He talked more about the character and the feud than he did Razor. But I believe that's what he also went into detail about in his book that came out a few years ago. We see a picture of him as the Intercontinental Champion soon after. I think he won the championship on that very show at the 96 Rumble. And it was that feud of the Razor that kind of kicked off his run as the Intercontinental Champion. But that was when the IC title had the gold strap when he was holding it. He called it his favorite title, and it was right there at that very picture, when that picture was taken, that he lost his mind, he says. We see a picture of Goldust and his dog, Khaleesi, something like that. A Mastiff dog. He named it after the dragon in Game of Thrones. I don't watch Game of Thrones. I didn't get the reference. But it's this huge-ass dog. Apparently, it's not even the biggest dog he has. It's about 170 pounds, just as heavy as he is. And he said the dog loves attention, loves to sleep on the couch every single day. So kind of cool to see an inside look at the life of Goldust beyond the ring. We see a picture of Goldust with Marlena at the Oscars, where they went during the day to do a photo shoot and take some video. He started crawling on the red carpet, and immediately paparazzi came over to take some pictures and ask him who he was, and he kept on doing, doing in character, saying that he was Goldust and doing that whole shtick, We see a picture of Goldust right next to the golden casket, which Undertaker made specifically tailor-made for him during their feud in 96 and 97. I think it was 96, with Goldust's name on the side. Goldust said it had an awesome build-up. Working with Undertaker was unbelievable. He even beat The Undertaker at one point in that casket match with help from Mankind. I think the Intercontinental Championship was on the line, if my memory serves me correctly. But he said it was a great time to be around. I mean, granted, Mankind did help him beat Undertaker, but a win is a win, and Goldust can forever say he has beaten The Undertaker. We see a picture of Dusty Rhodes as the Common Man, a character that was given to him with polka dots. But he took it and he ran with it. He got over with it as much as he could, as only Dusty Rhodes could do. He said there was no stopping, and it was a testament to how creative Dusty Rhodes could be, and that it meant the world to him just to see that picture, even if he's not with him today. Just to see that picture and know how much he meant to him means the world to Dustin all these years later. We see a picture of Goldust kissing, or not kissing as Goldust would say, but giving mouth-to-mouth to Ahmed Johnson. Yeah, the infamous angle backstage, which I had no idea aired on May 27, 96, which is notable because that's the same night that on Nitro, Scott Hall showed up on Nitro in WCW. So I did not know that, and that it aired on this night until I saw the date in the corner when they replayed the footage. But yeah, he recalled giving him mouth-to-mouth because Ahmed Johnson was on a gurney, and then Goldust, after kind of giving him a little too much mouth, no tongue, but only mouth, he ran away in fear. I'm not really sure if he was in kayfabe here, but yeah, he ran away in fear, and he wanted to take it to the edge in doing stuff that no one else had done before, and he called it fun times. We see a picture of him riding Nikita Koloff to the ring, or I think it was Magnum TA, but he told the story about Nikita Koloff in a minute. But it was from the Great American Bash, the NWA 1986 pay-per-view, and at that show, Dustin had the job of driving wrestlers to the ring on golf carts, and he really wanted to drive Nikita Koloff. He was a big fan of him. So Ivan Koloff's in the back seat. While he's driving Nikita Koloff to the ring, he had a tequila bottle thrown at him. Nikita, that is. But it missed, almost hit Dustin, but he ducked out of the way, and it barely hit him. Barely. Or not even, but it came close to hitting him while he was driving this golf cart. So it almost got real ugly real fast, but he said he'll never forget that. We get this great story of Goldust working with Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 12. They filmed the Hollywood Backlot Brawl a few weeks, I think he said, a week and a half before WrestleMania itself. Roddy Piper breaking glass with the bat of the cars and shattering the windows and stuff. Wasn't fake glass. This was hardcore stuff, he says. He got no offense in it all early on. But I guess there was this one spot where I think I've heard this before. But Goldust was supposed to hit Roddy Piper with a car. Hit him with a car. And he wasn't supposed to hit him, but Piper was supposed to get out of the way. He said that he would. So Goldust is driving the car towards him, and Piper isn't moving. And he's hoping that he is going to move, but he's not. So as he gets closer, Piper does like this little jump, and he jumps up in the air, and he hits the car right on his knees. And he kind of hits the car on the, he kind of rolls over the front of the car, and Goldust is like, holy shit, what the fuck are we doing right now? But they get in the building. The building is shaking, Goldust says. And he starts crying because, it's emotional stuff because Roddy Piper has since left us. He passed away a few months after Dusty did, so I'm sure it's tough. But he did ask Vince before WrestleMania if he could wear women's lingerie for the finish. That spot where Roddy Piper starts stripping Goldust of his gear, and then he's wearing women's lingerie underneath? That was Goldust's idea. Vince loved it, went out and bought the biggest women's lingerie he could find, and he said it was the most enjoyable thing of his career to date. We see a picture of him with Cody Rhodes circa 2013 with them as the Brotherhood, and he said, when we got together, it just kind of clicked, which, I figured it would considering they're brothers. But he called him Magic. He loves him to death, Cody that is, and that Cody just has it in his blood. And I love that tag team for the record, too. Goldust and Cody Rhodes back in 2013, early 2014 with the fucking shit. Those guys really revitalized tag team wrestling in many ways during that time period. They were just a really, really good team. I didn't really care as much for Goldust and Stardust, but I thought Goldust and Cody Rhodes were a tremendous tag team. We get a flashback to when he got electrocuted by Batista and Randy Orton on a February 2003 edition of Monday Night Raw. And it was, apparently it was real. It hurt like hell, he said, and he actually got shocked. And as a result, in storyline, he got a speech impediment, which will show up every now and again, even all these years later. It's not as prominent as it used to be, but, it's more for comedy than anything. But he went with it, he rolled with it, and made it a thing, which is cool. And it's one of the more long-term storytelling angles this company's ever done, because he still uses it on occasion to this day when he's going for comedy. It's really been kind of phased out, but he was doing it years removed from when the storyline took place. It's been 15 years since it happened, and he's still doing the whole speech impediment thing, which is cool. We see a picture of him winning the World Tag Team titles, the Raw Tag titles, with Booker T back in 2002. And they were given free reign by Vince. They had great chemistry, Goldust says. We see some clips of like Goldust in bed with Booker T and some woman, I don't know if it's Sharmell or, I don't think it's Sharmell, or some other woman that Booker T was seeing in storyline at that point. And all this other stuff. With them in the bed and with Booker T dressing up as a cowboy. They really had some amazing segments that are really funny even all these years later. And then the final picture we see is of Goldust working with the Ultimate Warrior. And he doesn't talk about that feud specifically, but he talks about just Goldust in general. And then he says, I would prefer to be Goldust right now than go back to being Dustin Rhodes. And that was what made him for the past 23 years. That was really what cemented him as a star in this business, was his work as Goldust. And he said he's going to keep on doing it until his knees fall off. And that's exactly what his dad used to do, or how his dad would have done it. And he's really proud of what he accomplished. So that's it. That is WWE Photo Shoot with the one and only, the bizarre one, Goldust. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was good. The 30 minutes just fly by like that. Goldust has a lot of great stories to share, so definitely check out this edition of WWE Photo Shoot on the WWE Network. So I believe this Sunday, they are airing the Woken, yes, WWE 24 special with the Hardys. I have been looking forward to that since we saw the preview for it, since we saw the teaser trailer for it over WrestleMania weekend. It's airing this Sunday after Money in the Bank. Now, I know Money in the Bank is going to be like a fucking 5-hour show, including the kickoff and all this other shit. So, it's going to be a long night. If you don't want to stay up to watch it, definitely check it out as soon as possible. I will be in Chicago as we speak. I am recording this now, leaving in a few mere hours for Chicago. So, I'm going to try to watch it before I leave on Monday and record a review for it. The review won't be up until like next Friday anyway. I'll try to watch and review Total Bellas for Monday. If I can't, I apologize. It will be up on Tuesday or Wednesday. But yeah, I will be in Chicago when that airs, so hopefully I can watch it at the time, if not a few days after. But it looks great. It looks absolutely awesome. Absolutely wonderful, yes. And hopefully I can talk about it here on Network and Chill next Friday. So anyway, guys, be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Money in the Bank as much as I will, as well as TakeOver. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.